Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, where are you in the world? And welcome to another cup of self-empowerment to trust, heal, and be thyself. And I'm really, really delighted to have a very special lady in the house from the UK. My dear friend Liz Findlay is here with us in the house. And many of you probably already know Liz, but for those who don't, let me warmly introduce Liz to our Cuppa Hub today. And Liz is a starseed, a Reiki master teacher, and an animal healer with her own business where she offers multifaceted healing for both people and animals. She is also the creator behind the brand Ascension Swag, energy-infused clothing and merchandise. Liz has trained in many different energy modalities that she has merged with reactivated gifts from other lifetimes for her human and animal sessions, specifically focused on energetic clearing and interference. Liz also won gold in the 2024 Alchemistic Awards in the Animal Healing category. She runs workshops and retreats in the UK and abroad, as well as Starseed Business Networking on Zoom each month. Liz also runs online workshops on topics to do with energy and spirituality, as well as practical webinars helping spiritual entrepreneurs. She also produces free meditations and podcasts, which are available on YouTube, SoundCloud, and Insight Timer. And I will share those addresses with you afterwards. And she has her own website for one-to-one healing sessions, which she hosts on Zoom for starseeds, business blueprint clearing, as well as animal healing. There's a lot of stuff that you do there, dear Liz. So welcome. Firstly, thank you so much for taking the time for us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my
I've
pleasure.
got my cuppa.
Yeah,
There's my
me
tea.
too. Cheers, dear. So, a lot of people know who you are already, but for those of us who may not know kind of how you landed in this beautiful world, what you walk your path so authentically in, how did you actually start your journey to trust yourself on your journey, what you're doing now?
Well, I was very blessed that from a young age, I did have at least one open family member who was spiritual telling me about reincarnation. And I prefer to say other lives rather than past lives, but they were
Yeah.
talking to me about past lives. And so I had this slow opening that it wasn't just like, boom, one day I've woken up.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice and gentle according to what I was interested in at the time. In my teens, I then wanted to go see the same healer that they were seeing.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I do remember, I think it might have been in my early 20s, I can't remember exactly, but I saw this healer and she was checking a connection with somebody out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Oh, well, you've had other lifetimes together, some on other planets, but we'll just focus on the ones on Earth." And part of me was like, that's so weird, but that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have the word star seed back then, but that, I guess, was the first kind of inkling and exposure that I was getting to the star seed world. Is like, I knew it. I knew there were lives on other planets. And I would say I grew up in South Africa in Johannesburg, and I didn't really know much spiritual stuff going on there. I only knew of one shop in the local mall that I used to just walk round and round and round, just fascinated by everything in there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when I moved to the UK and lived in London, that was 2008,
Mm-hmm.
that I started finding out about talks and workshops and things like that. And so that helped me more. But I'll totally admit that, especially living in London, for anyone who's either lived there or been there, it's kind of like fit in, look normal, act normal, don't talk to anybody, don't look at anyone, look at your phone, look at the floor, look at the newspaper. And so I even bought like a different color umbrella. And, that even stands out as a little bit weird, although I'm seeing more people do that though. But yeah, I bought some
more so
crazy
now,
leggings.
yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
And I got such looks when I was walking down the street in these leggings that I'll be honest, like I didn't feel totally comfortable.
Okay.
But I did hear that as women mature, there reaches a point where they actually care a lot less. And
Mm.
I've definitely been noticing that over the past few years, especially last year. And it was interesting because last year, which was 2024, I turned 40.
Mhm.
And even more so, I'm like, oh, do you know what? If I like it, I'm going to wear it. And, just, being more of my true authentic self. But it has been a journey to acceptance
I can imagine.
and especially letting go of, like the bullying that I had at school. And, I went to all girls schools and, just constantly hearing like, you're weird. And now it's like,
Really?
yes, I am weird. And that's fabulous.
Mhm.
And even labeling me a witch because I had a black cat. And now it's like,
Seriously?
yeah,
Okay.
I think I probably am a witch, more of a white witch though, rather than like a dark witch, so
Yeah.
to speak. But um, so yeah, rather than seeing those as criticisms,
Mhm.
I now totally feel that it is part of what makes me unique.
You're
And
embracing all your qualities, aren't you? And what's what they are? It's your unique qualities, and they're actually beautiful qualities to have. So it's also
thank you.
very inspiring for that to be outspoken because there's many of us who have been put, through our childhood and, in school and everything, all that conditioning, like you said about London, completely. You don't get noticed. You just blend into the crowd nicely. Don't cause too much commotion. Just kind of get your head down and get on with it. So, I mean, as you said, that's changing a lot now, but it's good that, you had back then in your childhood those little nudges, which were kind of already inviting you to step into that empowered version of yourself already. So that's really lovely. But we all know, again, regardless how gentle your awakening is, there's usually a lot of healing which happens on the way, isn't there? So, of ourselves, unpacking ourselves, things coming up. So, you've got a multitude of gifts and energy practices that you share with clients and obviously use for yourself as well. So how did you step into this process of like healing yourself and healing thyself basically? How did that journey kind of unpack?
So I used to have three autoimmune diseases. I'm not allowed to say I cured myself, but I am allowed to say that I've been symptom free since 2016.
Brilliant.
And I just never gave up. I never gave up. Every time the doctors said, well, there's nothing more we can do for you. And, they tried me on so many different pills, can't even remember them all. And whenever they said to me, there is no cure, I can't tell you why, but I just held on to the fact that I don't believe that. And I was trying everything. I've done the most weird and wonderful things and, sessions here and sessions there, just seeking
Yeah.
what is going to work.
Hmm.
And I trained in Reiki back in 2010.
Hmm.
And I would say that helped with one of them. I used to have endometriosis,
Okay.
and it was the surgeon said I need surgery every 2 years, kind of
Whoa.
forever. It was that bad. When I went back for a checkup after the first surgery, thinking that we're going to book in fairly soon, the next theatre date,
Hmm.
he actually pointed his finger at me and he said, I don't know what you've been doing, but you keep doing it. You don't need further surgery. And he had no medical explanation. And
Okay.
that's when I was like, oh my gosh, like that must be the Reiki.
Hmm.
Because I actually physically couldn't, with Reiki, they say you can give yourself Reiki, different points,
Yes.
your own self healing. I couldn't, like, I could not for like 5 minutes hold my hands on my head or, forehead. I didn't have the strength to do that. So I just did all of my daily Reiki to my stomach,
Yeah,
not
which is
really
fine because
thinking it would
Reiki
be
flows
for the
where it needs
Reiki.
to go. Yeah. So it was going where it
Yeah.
needs to go.
And then from there, I now know that Reiki will flow wherever it needs to go. You don't have to hold the specific point, it will
Hmm.
travel.
Yeah.
But the Reiki didn't help me with two of the other autoimmune diseases that I was dealing with.
Okay.
But again, I never gave up. I was still told, there's nothing more we can do for you and all of this. And I just happened to move into a flat. It was a flat share with two other girls and didn't know why I was being guided there. It wasn't convenient, couldn't fit my stuff in.
Oh gosh.
I mean, like but within half an hour of moving in, the one flatmate turned out to be a nutritionist.
Oh, awesome.
And she then got me on this diet to heal damaged gut lining. And, long story short, I was doing the energy healing, but I had to change what I eat radically.
Hmm.
Radically. I mean, they're weird things I can't eat. I mean, like I'm definitely grain free, so I'm not just gluten free, but I can't eat rice and oats. Just
Wow.
such chaos,
Okay.
such chaos. And um, so yeah, I started seeing from there that the energy healing could then take a hold once I got things out of my diet, out of my home that were toxins for my body.
That makes sense. Mm.
And so it's really from that that it all grew and blossomed, but then furthering my own education within the spiritual realms is, once I got the health underway, then Dark Night of the Soul came smacking me in the
Oh,
face.
nice.
And although I had experience with entities before, I didn't actually fully understand what had happened. But this Dark Night of the Soul is what brought me a lot of entity interference.
Oh.
And so, yeah, again, just a need to
Mm.
learn more about this and clear it myself, because I really am all about empowering myself and inspiring other people to empower themselves, that you're not reliant totally on other people. I mean, look, we can
Absolutely.
all support each other. You don't have to walk the journey alone, but it
Hmm.
really is so empowering when we can sort a lot of these things out for ourselves. And so, yeah, I
Absolutely.
never intended to work with anything like clearing interference and entities and these sorts of weird things. But, my higher selves had a different plan and we're like, right, we're going to bring you this nonsense here, figure out a way to deal with
Completely.
it, and then help others.
Yeah, and which works really well because we know how to help others when we actually experience ourselves. And, as you said, you completely unpacked your diet, you completely unpacked that. And then obviously with the Dark Night of the Soul, when that appeared, you needed to unpack that somehow. And obviously, they're not the most pleasant of experiences, but it's great that you have now a toolkit which you can share. And I completely agree with you, the fact that we can all help each other out, and we all need someone who, when we're starting off, who can guide us, give us that helping hand, take us on that journey, guide us along. But at the end of the day, we need to have those tools ourselves because they're laying dormant in us anyway. And you can't always expect someone to be available when you need them. Something happens, you need to be able to kind of sort that out yourself a little bit. Obviously, it's great to have mentors and teachers. It's super important. And to have someone who you can mirror back stuff with or get advice from and grow and learn from each other. But, for yourself with your dark night of your soul, if you were dealing with entities and stuff like that, that is a 24/7 process. A lot of the time, I can quite imagine if it was coming in strong.
Yeah, and look, I definitely needed people to show me the way
Yeah,
out and teach me the tools that
of
I then learned
course.
and implemented. And some things I figured out for myself.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's fabulous having resources out there. I mean, I'm not going to train in absolutely everything.
Yeah.
It's what inspires me and what works.
Hmm.
Like, for example, I've got a fabulous homeopath. Do I have any desire to go and learn homeopathy? No, but I know it works for my body.
Yeah,
So I will be booking her in.
exactly.
But like for definitely the daily energetic cleansing, the grounding, the protecting, all of that,
Mm.
I knew I had to just level up and learn it myself,
Yeah,
and get those tools because that's the kind of basic, you could say, energetic hygiene
yeah.
that all of us implement. Like, you have, well, you hopefully have a shower like once a day. Um, you know, change your clothes,
Yeah,
and you're not reliant on somebody bathing you. Well,
no.
some people might need to, but for most of us. And so, yeah, I do think the daily grounding and protecting is just you. I certainly need to be doing that for myself rather than having someone wave a magic wand.
Yeah. We haven't all got a lot of fairy godmothers dancing around us all day long trying to do that work for us. We have to kind of be pretty independent and sort that out ourselves, don't we? As much as we can, as much as we bodily and, possibly can. So,
Well, I have to tell you, sorry to interrupt,
no,
that
go for it.
I stayed with a shaman and we were going through because I was being psychically attacked by one specific person. And so we were going through, he said, talk me through your protection. And I said, well, this is what I do in the morning, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And he said, and then for the rest of the day? And I was like,
Mm.
well, I'm set up. And he laughed and he said, what, you think you're Gandalf?
Oh dear. Which
I
probably
thought that was
a lot of
hilarious.
us
It
do
stuck with
sometimes.
me.
We think we've done it and then we're like, we're good. We're good
Yeah,
to go.
yeah, I've done it. The thing is, a lot of these things you can just set yourself up in the morning. It's like putting on your clothes, you're done. But when you are getting somebody who's, a bit of a gray magician or something like that, where
Yeah.
they're targeting you,
Yeah.
you can't just think you've set yourself up for the morning. And so that was very, very valuable advice. He said, I need to, at moments through the day, just recheck my protection, the integrity of it. And he said, kind of keep 20% of your awareness on that, and it helped because then I could pick up when this person started actively sending again and
Oh,
then neutralize. I mean, I don't get it from them anymore. There does reach a point where you can thankfully get rid of
yes.
these types, but I just had to share that. What you
No,
think you're
it's really
Gandalf?
important. It's really important because, sometimes it's like, sometimes it can take a bit of a checklist kind of thing, like done, 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 done. And like, how can that possibly be happening to me? Because I've done this, 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 and this, and this. But as you said, you're checking in with your body the whole day. You're checking in whether you're thirsty, you're hungry, if like you're feeling tired, what your body's lacking and stuff like that. So it makes sense how you express it to check in with, to have that 20% awareness. Okay, how am I feeling? How is everything feeling around me? How's my aura feeling? How is my field feeling? And it also cultivates more, I would imagine, a more stronger connection to yourself as well and to your own energy field.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And you pick these things up much quicker, like, and you can nip it in the bud because you have that
Mm.
opportunity.
Which is important because you don't want that. That can be very exhausting if that's happening along a lot of the time. Yeah. So no, that's a good tip. Thank you for sharing that. So when would you say for you was the moment that you literally thought, you know what? This is who I am. I know you said, last year was your birthday and turning 40, and like the more older you get, the more you feel like, this is who I am. Um, and I want to wear this, whatever. Was there a moment where you knew, okay, this is how I'm going to show up. This is unapologetically who I am as Liz. Was there a moment what came that for you, or was it just kind of been unfolding for you?
I think when the dark night of the soul hit,
Hmm.
which was probably towards the end of 2016, maybe, but I was more aware of it 2017.
Okay.
I knew that this is what I'm meant to be doing. I'd already quit a job in property
Hmm.
to start this, and I knew that I was meant to do it. And this is my path, but I had to really deal with, and the words that you used earlier about unpacking,
Yeah.
I had to unpack certain feelings. And I guess it's 3D conditioning in that I kept having looping around my mind, and now I don't care. But it was, what are my neighbors from South Africa going to think?
Okay.
And it's so weird. Like now it doesn't, they probably wish me well. But at the time, there was this kind of social conditioning. And, a lot of the people that I know from there, they finance and lawyers and things like that. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it was just trying to shed that mask, I guess, for myself, because they weren't saying anything to me.
Yeah.
They weren't being judgmental. It was my own thoughts
Oh, yeah.
recycling round of like, oh my God, what are they going to think? What are they going to say?
Yeah, I
What are the
understand.
conversations going to be like? And one of the things that actually really helped me is I had forgotten that a second cousin here in the UK,
Hmm.
she's like a Scottish cousin. I forgot that she was linked to me on LinkedIn. And
Okay.
whatever I put on Instagram or Facebook, I
Hmm.
just shove on LinkedIn anyway.
Yeah.
And it was something weird, like normal to me, but like weird for everyone else.
Hmm.
I can't remember the post, probably about entities. And she liked it and it showed me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like what is a family going to say? And it's like, well, there's no going back now. Like,
Yeah.
it's there.
Hmm.
And just realizing, well, this is me. There's nothing I can do. And what has also then been hugely helpful of just shedding those, I guess, self-imposed thoughts that other people are judging
Yeah.
is that, my dad is pretty 3D.
Hmm.
And yet he's been very supportive. And when I told him that I was going to quit the property job and start this, I thought he was going to try talk me out of it.
Okay.
But instead, I mean, it took him maybe 30 seconds of processing of like, oh. And then he started giving me ideas. And so, although he's 3D and doesn't really get what I do, and I would never talk to him about entities, the fact that, he shows the support
Hmm.
has also helped me just like, well, who cares what the rest of the family think?
That's fantastic. I
And
mean, that
what
is really
also,
fantastic. Yeah.
what's been amazing is that even some people from my university,
Okay.
again, I didn't even know they were following me on Instagram. One of them messaged me saying, I'm loving your feed. And when I saw that come through, there was this initial, like, my heart nearly jumped out.
Yeah.
And then to see she's loving it, and it's like, so I have realized more and more over the past few years that I cannot dim my light. It
Mhm.
doesn't serve me, it doesn't serve my path, my soul mission, nothing. And I definitely can't dim my light to try and help other people,
No, of course not.
if they are maybe threatened by my light in some way. And when I say threatened, it's not me, it's their own story, just like I had
Exactly.
my
It's
own
just you're
story.
highlighting it. It's just you're just bringing light to
Yeah.
they're feeling it. Yeah.
And so I need to just shine my light bright and be who I am authentically. And all of these little experiences, I can definitely look back and laugh. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that because it's really interesting you said that because I popped to the supermarket this morning really early. And I walked in, I just come out of yoga. So I was like in leggings. I had no makeup on, leggings, nothing. I was just like, quickly, I needed to go and grab something. I'll do it on the way before I go home. So G repairs car keys and just running into the shop to grab what I needed to grab. And then I literally walked into the supermarket and saw someone who I have probably not seen, probably for 8 or 9 years. Okay. And you're like thinking, they're seeing me and I'm looking like this. Like, the first thing that's like that little bit of humanness, I think we all have that still within us. We're still all like, we've still got those little edges every now and again, what like to show themselves. And then I caught myself and it was like, literally, who cares? It doesn't matter. But there was literally for like a couple of seconds, I was like, oh, I felt myself stopping and was like, okay. And then I saw her, chatted with her, and it was lovely and it was really nice. But I was just like, it was interesting when I walked back to my car. I was like, see, Kelly, you've still got bits where you're still catching yourself because it's so deeply in our systems. And it was interesting we were talking, and she actually said we haven't seen each other, heard each other for so many years. And she's like, oh yeah, I told her she asked where I was working. I told her where I was working. She's like, but you've also got your own business. You do energy work, don't you? And I was just like, that moment, like, okay. So people do find out, and it's just, it feels that kind of bit of, I know that feeling. So that feeling, you spoke about is very present with me today because I felt it very, very real. It's just like, okay, shine your light. It's okay. The people who need to see it will see it. And part of the journey is actually owning it as well. And if we haven't always owned it in our childhood, because we've kind of been, just how society was, just to be blending in, to be seen and not heard so much kind of thing, it's deeply ingrained. So I think it's good. Like you've had the opportunity to like to share that today, and for myself to share that to for other people to know, just because it pops up every now and again and you catch yourself, it's actually showing you actually how much work you've done in yourself as well. So celebrate it too. Yeah.
Well, I think the fact that you can catch yourself, and
Yeah.
I catch myself too,
Mm.
that is part of the key, is that when you recognize it, because for so many years I wouldn't have even been able to catch myself because it was so deeply
Yeah.
ingrained. And, there's had to be a lot of deconditioning for me because this society, I mean, as a starseed, I'm starting to see more and more that I don't think I was given the handbook on how to be human.
Okay. They
I
forgot to pass that
was
one on
maybe
to you.
given a few pointers, but
Mm.
definitely not the instruction manual. And so I do find a lot of these things quite strange.
Yeah. Anyone who's watching today, if you don't mind me interrupting, Liz, what would your definition be? Some people might be watching this today and thinking, she keeps using the word starseed. What does that actually mean?
So I've been asked this a lot recently. My
Ah, okay.
hairdresser, my
Okay.
osteopath, and so without sounding crazy, like you don't need to call people to take me
The man
away.
called the white jackets. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. There are a group of people on Earth who believe that they have had other lifetimes, or you might say past lives,
hmm
on other planets in other star systems,
hmm
not just Earth. And I was met with a bit of like, oh, surprise by these few people who've been asking me recently. And I think it comes across as, when you haven't heard about this, that you might assume that it's a small minority. But actually, there are thousands of us. Like I happen to know one YouTube channel that's dedicated to star seeds has almost 200,000 subscribers
Wow.
that I see on YouTube. So that is because it's dedicated to star seeds. You need to then know that the people subscribing are not considering themselves not to be star seeds, and they're just vaguely interested in this. If you're interested in that and you're going to subscribe, you are a star seed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think when you're looking at about, and that wouldn't even be all of them, because I meet star seeds here and there and at our workshops, and not all of them are watching videos on YouTube.
No, of course
So
not.
you could just say that the absolute baseline minimum is 200,000 on the planet, but they're probably a few hundred thousand more than that.
Wow.
And the common factors with star seeds is, I'd say all the star seeds that I've met, including myself, just don't feel like Earth is home.
Mm.
And it's home right now, and I can feel comfortable. Like I certainly love my home.
Yeah.
But for me personally, it feels a little bit like I'm at a good friend's house where I know where she keeps the tea and the mugs, and I can make myself a cup of tea when I please, something like that. So it's familiar,
Mm.
but it doesn't feel like my home. A
hmm
lot of star seeds have this deep homesickness, and like I even went to my mom as a child crying and I said, just be honest with me, I'm adopted, aren't I? She's like, no, you're not. I carried
Oh.
you for 9 months. But so many star seeds I've spoken to just feel like they don't even fit into their families.
hmm
Like I'm very different from my family. Like my family's quite military. And
Oh, okay.
then here I am, pendulums and crystals and whatever else. And I mean, I find it hilarious. My one brother was trying to recruit me into the army.
Oh my
I
God.
had to just say to him, I just don't think the army will appreciate my pink scatter cushions, but
Not
thanks.
really. You'll be popping little crystals in their pockets before they go off, wouldn't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
and shower them with glitter or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, star seeds don't really feel like they fit in their families. I have met some star seeds who have another star seed in the family,
Ah.
and they're just so fortunate.
Mm.
They don't feel quite so isolated.
Yeah.
But they also tend to go through the dark night of the soul. That seems to be a rite of passage, I think, for all
Yeah.
star
That's
seeds.
my next question, because just in case someone's watching, it's like, with the dark night of the soul, How would you kind of summarize that basically?
Oh, it is a very intense period of time, and it can last, a few months, even a few years.
Yeah.
Somebody I know had it for 6 years. I actually just don't know how they would, I
I
don't know
don't know
how
how
I would
someone would
cope.
survive
But
with that for 6 years, but I know mine's been pretty long at times. So I'm just like, oh, yeah.
I think if I look at mine, so you could call it like a deep spiritual awakening. So although I had this very comfortable drip
Mm-hmm.
feeding from when I was little,
Mm-hmm.
and finding things out here and there and being drawn to books finally, like I finally in my late teens stumbled across books on angels and things like that.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that was all very comfortable. But then, from what I understand of my experience and other people's experiences of the dark night of the soul, is that it can be quite a massive shift. And it can be a very, very challenging time. So although you could say it's a spiritual awakening of sorts, the common traits of a dark night of the soul is that it's really not comfortable.
It's not,
It
no.
can feel, I mean, dark, the word dark, you can literally feel like you're in darkness and where's the way out? Can somebody just shine a light for me? And I think it is a purging process. Certainly that's what I experienced, is that's when I had a lot of these, like when I said, what are my neighbors going to think,
Yeah.
those sorts of things need to come up and be released.
Mhm.
And so it's a type of housekeeping in a way. You're clearing your energy bodies, maybe even your physical bodies.
Basically
And
gutting your house, aren't you, at the end of the day, in some kind of respect?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's important to know that your higher selves are guiding the way. And the higher selves will allow certain experiences in life that can feel really rubbish. I
Mm.
won't swear on your show, but I
Fine,
could
you
use a
can. It's
whole
absolutely
whole
fine.
load of expletives to describe that kind of thing. They allow it not because it's any kind of karma or punishment or something. It is to level up and grow.
Yeah.
Just like my higher selves allowed the entity attack and interference and all of that, it's like, right, you're going to be teaching this.
Mm.
Experience it, learn how to neutralize it, and then off you go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, those types of experiences can feel very heavy, draining. Like you're thrown in the deep end sometimes. And
They're
even though at
exhausting
times,
as well. They're completely, I find it extremely exhausting. And sometimes you feel like your soul is just really tired and just is just like, whoa, you know.
yeah, I've heard some people feel that like they're disconnected from source, and it's, like where are my guides, or they feel completely abandoned and isolated.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to hold on to the fact, however rubbish it feels, is that there definitely is a guiding light of some sorts. Your higher selves are still there. You're still getting support, even if you might not feel it.
Mm.
And that is really the time that even if you're Reiki trained, or whatever modality you're trained in, it is okay to seek help. You're not expected to navigate this on your own. And I think part of the magic is then being able to seek help and learning skills and tools, and also accepting the help and then navigating out of
Definitely.
that and then leveling up. I have heard other star seeds that, during the dark night of the soul, they might have a mentor of some sorts, and then they've gone on to train in that modality, and then they've become a teacher to other people
Yes.
in that modality.
Hmm.
So, looking back, it can all make sense. Like I've definitely experienced this,
Yeah, I
where
have
it
as
feels like
well.
my path maybe went off and detoured and backwards. And I've heard other starseeds say this. The thing is, looking back, it all makes perfect sense all of a sudden. I mean, like, I even thought my degree was probably a waste of time. And then all of
Yes.
a sudden now I'm like, wow, it wasn't a waste of time.
Yeah. Tell us about Ascension Swag.
Ah, yeah. So I'll just, you're wearing one of the
I'm
t-shirts.
wearing one.
So
This is
that
lovely.
is Flower of Life. And I'll hold another one up. Um,
That's beautiful.
this, this one I call Galaxy Metatron's Cube. Each little round circle is a galaxy. So this is energy infused clothing. It's also on the designs are on tote bags.
Hmm.
And yeah, how it ties into my degree is that I did a degree in brands communication, specializing in art direction.
Hmm.
Back in South Africa, I don't know now, I never went into the industry, but back then you'd either study to be an art director or a graphic designer.
Okay.
Whereas in the UK,
It
I
also
realized
goes
that,
towards graphic design.
yeah, first level, you enter the industry at graphic designer and you work up to being an art director.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was told when I moved over. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I didn't really use my degree much. And then I started using it a lot more with my business. And, I create all my own social media posts, all my own images for events and everything. So it's like, wow, I'm actually using this degree after all. And then at some of the events that I was co-hosting, there were people saying, oh, if you guys had t-shirts here, I'd buy them.
Mm.
So I started looking at it last year, and the whole thing for me right from the beginning felt like it mustn't just be a pretty image that's printed on a t-shirt or a hoodie or a sweater or anything like that. It needs to be energy infused, that it is a tool.
Yeah.
And so all of these, I've got four designs now, and that is May 2025, four
Yeah.
designs. And all of them, once I create them with the master file, I do a ceremony.
Wow.
And I cleanse and clear all of them of any possible lower vibrational energies. And it's not that I'm infusing them, it's just like I'm literally working with software on a computer that is
Okay.
developed by another company.
Yeah.
So anything that might be in there, let's get it out.
Hmm.
And then I infuse it with beneficial energies. And then so there is a whole team in spirit holding ascension
That's
swag
fantastic.
to
This
guide
I find
me.
it amazing. Yeah.
And it's like these images, these designs exist maybe on the sixth dimension or wherever.
Mm.
And they help me then see them to produce them. And so they
Wow.
also guide me through the ceremony.
Yeah.
And so these designs get attuned for specific things. So, for example, this Galaxy Metatron's cube is attuned to help align you to your highest timeline.
Ah.
And they also help me infuse light codes in. So you won't see it, but within the master file. And the reason why it's the master file is that I'm not going to take every individual t-shirt and do
No,
a
goodness me.
ceremony. It's on the master file. And then they show me that every item that is then produced from that master file has the energies infused. And it's been amazing that those people who are very sensitive to energy, when they've received theirs, I've then received a number of messages like, I felt the energy immediately.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
so it's not just me, because of course, it was going through my mind like, am I the only one feeling these energies?
Mm.
And no, other people are feeling them too. But I do emphasize that it is a tool, and the light codes and the energy infused are meant to work with you and your intentions with your own work. So it's not just like you wear the t-shirt and voila, everything's just
No,
magic.
no, of course not. I mean, at the
It
end of the day, also,
integrates.
it's another thing which is actually just popped into my mind. I hope you don't mind me asking this, but obviously the clothes need to be washed as well. So, is the infusion, I take it, so intertwined in the t-shirt into the design that even when it's been washed, everything's still as it is in that master file, I take it.
Yeah, because it's all energy. And so
Mm.
essentially the print on the t-shirt is being energetically linked to, you could say, what the team in spirit holding Ascension Swag
Mm.
have put together. Now, they've also shown me it's only a one-way flow of energy. So this is also for my protection. So nobody can grab one of my t-shirts and then use it for some kind of psychic attack.
Yeah, no, thank goodness for that.
So just one-way flow of energy.
Hmm.
And so, you could wash the t-shirt 100 times and it's working with the energetics. It's not the actual print.
Yeah. And I think it's important to share that. That's why I wanted to ask, because I think that's very, that could pop in people's minds. So I just was like, okay, let's just ask the question. So thank you for asking.
Well, what I will say is, I mean, you still want the print looking nice.
Of
That I did a little
course.
reel on
Yeah.
Instagram where I was sharing some tips. Like, for example, I turn my t-shirts inside out
Yeah.
before I wash them. And
Hmm.
I also wash on a cold wash.
Yes.
Um, and and I don't iron them.
No.
That is the synopsis of how to make the print
Yes.
look good for longer.
Cool. That's
Um,
great. Yeah, but it's nice that you've actually, literally that channel which was, you opened up as a student is now being used in this life with the clothing and with the designing, actually using that, using what you just merging everything together basically. Very
and
interesting.
it ties in more with hindsight because I'd forgotten this, but my godmother, who's here in the UK,
Yeah.
so part of the clothing that's available are hoodies.
Mhm.
You can get the designs on hoodies, and so she was just asking me how's it going,
Mhm.
and she reminded me that when I first moved over to the UK, I worked for a company that would do hoodies for kids leaving school. So, you pop all the names on or everything. And I was like,
Oh, yeah,
oh
we
my
have done that.
goodness,
Yeah, oh
yes.
my
And she's like,
gosh.
now you're doing your own hoodies. And I was like, wow, that even that experience,
Yes.
and the manager was not very easy to work for.
Uh-huh.
But even that experience, it's like, wow,
The
because I
stepping
can
stones,
understand.
there've been stepping stones. There's been all kind of like those, yeah, stepping stones have all been laid out and you've walked that path exactly as you needed to walk it. And with hindsight, you can look and say, well, there were no stepping stones.
Yeah, because I
Incredible.
was never in the factory.
Mm,
But just getting the files ready and everything, I do have a kind of an understanding of clothing printing. And then it's
yeah.
just like, oh my goodness, um, you know, all those years ago, it was gearing me up for this. So that, I
Mm,
mean, I certainly had an idea that my path would be like one foot in front of the other and it all kind of leads neatly.
hmm.
And I'm coming to learn a lot more that time is man-made, it is quantum, and sometimes part of the path there is an initial step here, and the next step is 10 years down the line,
Yes.
and then you could have the next step like a week later or so,
Hmm.
and you can't try plan or even understand that time frame and just have to hand it over to divine timing.
Yeah. This big surrendering, which is, it's hard for me, I must admit, and I'm sure it's hard for a lot of people to, it's always this practice of surrendering and trusting the process. So,
But I think it gets easier because
mm,
I am finding it a lot easier now to just go with the
yeah,
flow of divine timing.
yes.
Because like with Ascension Swag, I was wanting to launch last year.
Okay.
And whether it was the universe or the team in spirit holding Ascension Swag or a combination, but the brakes just kept being applied. And I'm like,
Mm,
why? I just want to launch, come on.
mm.
It's so many people are even asking me
Oh,
for the
wow.
stuff.
Okay. Hmm.
And it made no sense to me at the time. It makes perfect sense now. And it was really interesting because I was pretty much ready to launch. And again, so earlier this year, where I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Like, you guys have just got to let me know when it's meant to be.
Hmm.
And just kind of relaxing into that. And then I woke up the morning of the 1st of February.
Okay.
Now, depending on which website you look at or who you speak to, some people say that Imbolc, which is
Yes.
a pagan festival, is the first. Some people say it's the second, and
Hmm.
some people say it's the first and the second.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not necessarily pagan. There are a few pagan things that resonate with me, but I don't know why. I woke up the morning of the 1st of February and it's like, it has to be launched today.
Oh.
And there were a few minor things I still had to do, and there was like such urgency, it's got to be done. And I did. I managed to get it out, and that afternoon it launched. And I still don't fully understand why the 1st of February. Maybe it's also something to do with
Not that long ago,
astrology.
if you think about it. It feels like it's been around for longer. It
I
feels
know,
like,
but time has been weird over
yeah,
these
yeah,
past
time's
few
so, yeah,
months.
that anyway, but yeah.
But yeah, I that was a beautiful experience for me because I just relaxed into, okay, you guys will tell me when it's meant to be. And they did.
Yeah.
They were very clear, right? It's today. I mean, I think I need to have a word and say, can I at least have a day's notice next time? That it's not like waking up on the
I
morning,
think
right?
they
It's
wanted you
launch
to work
day.
under pressure on that one. It's like, we know she can do this.
Yeah, somehow pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that has really helped me just relax more into divine timing. And, I'm busy doing my next meditation for YouTube.
Mm.
And I just actively tell people, I put a little behind the scenes reel up, you know, and I just say it'll be birthed when it wants to be
Yeah.
birthed.
Yeah.
And who knows when that will be? I can't tell you.
Exactly. And I also feel that too. I'm very much surrendering to that way of being as well. Someone who was always like, I like to have a lot of structure and like, I'm a Pisces, but I've got a Virgo moon in me. So my Virgo moon can get a bit overpowering sometimes and like wants to, and Pisces just want to flow and stuff like that. And I'm trying to relax more into that flow because that, being strict and confined, it doesn't do me any good. And the
Mm.
more I go into that flow, the more stuff is allowed to come to me because I'm not trying to control it. So there
I
is
think structure is good as like a baseline, and then you
absolutely,
can
but not
flow on
like,
top. Like if I look
yeah.
at the events that I run, there is a structure, just so that we can fit everything in. And like
Yes,
there's a
of
tea
course.
break, there's lunch. But what's very important with the flow, especially with energy and these sorts of retreats and workshops, when you're
Mm,
working with energy, is that you can't say, right, everyone lunch is going to be at 1:30. Because if you're doing a process before that where
mm,
energies come up, you can't just say, well, can you pause your processing? We're all going to break for lunch now. You've got to let the
no,
group process and
absolutely.
work through whatever it is that you're doing with to a
Mm,
completion, or at least to a point that is of a natural break.
hmm.
Because I think it would just be irresponsible to be like, right, it's 1:30, we're breaking for lunch. Hold that thought, we'll come
You can
back.
just stop, is it? And you can't
So
stop it from flowing. If you're in the work, in the process, and we're working with energy, it's it's a co-creation and that needs to unpack itself in the time that it needs to be unpacked. And you can't put a time limit on that. So, yeah.
yeah, but it's definitely helpful to have that base structure of, right, these
Yes,
are the
of
things we
course.
plan to do,
Yeah.
rough time frame. But yeah, if I've got to cross out a whole exercise,
Mm,
so be it. Maybe that's not meant to be for this retreat,
yeah.
and we flow with the one that we were already doing. But like,
Mhm.
especially when excursions are involved, it is good to
Oh,
have
of
that
course.
that
I'm not
plan.
saying there's no structure at all. Absolutely not. I mean, we wouldn't be able to survive if we had no structure at all. But it's like sometimes, I know from my own experience, I could take structure a bit too extreme and like be too like that. And it's for me, it's a process to allow more flow, to allow that to unpack itself, to surrender and have that trust that everything's going to unfold exactly as it needs
Yeah.
to unfold.
Look, I was
I'm
there
sure.
too.
Yeah.
You don't work in property without a rigid structure. And so I had to kind of unlearn that, and definitely, like, it's a beautiful balance of the two. It
Definitely.
doesn't have to be one or the other.
No.
Because I
It's
did go to one retreat that was, I think, a little bit too much of let's go with the flow.
okay.
And yeah, it didn't feel like a properly held
I was going to
space. It
say
was
I
still
wouldn't want to
enjoyable.
felt held with something like that.
Yeah.
There needs to be a foundation that you can actually root yourself down into, basically. Oh, also that's the little story of Ascension Swag. That's lovely that you shared that with us, Liz. So, what advice would you offer our viewers today on their own path of, stepping into being themselves, mastering themselves? What advice would you like to share with them today?
Well, I think it might not seem related, but I really do think daily grounding and protecting.
Yeah.
Because I think once we're grounded
Mm-hmm.
and we're not having any kind of external attack,
Mm,
then we're more able to begin to know ourselves and understand ourselves.
mm-hmm.
That's been an absolute game changer in my life. I mean, years ago, I used to think, yeah, I'm fine, a bit of gold light around me, it's all good. It definitely is not enough.
Yeah.
So I hope it's okay to mention I do have two tracks on my
Go
YouTube
for it.
channel.
Literally, that's what I wanted to say. How can you help? And please share how you can support others to they on their own journey. What materials you've got out there, how people can find you, how they connect with you for retreats and stuff like that. Please do share.
So my website is lizfindlay.com, and I've got this YouTube channel. I mean, my tracks are also on SoundCloud and Inside Timer, but I focus more on the YouTube, and I've got these two tracks that are meant for morning and night. They're under 15 minutes.
Perfect.
And what I encourage people to do is, sure, listen to my track, get ideas, maybe merge it with some ideas from somebody else's track. You can merge it with some of your own intuition and guidance, and you form your own process that is ever evolving. So
Yeah.
my process now is even different to what's on my tracks.
Okay.
And I think this is where you embody your sovereignty and your own power, is where you pick and choose what resonates with you rather than just like,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, that if this is what Liz's track says, this is what I must do. No, it's an idea. And of course,
Mhm.
look, there are days I do it I listen to my own tracks. There are days when I need to just press play and it's like, oh, okay, yes, guide me through.
Mhm.
But I've certainly found that once I'm getting the external nonsense out, any interference,
Mhm.
and I'm grounded, and I mean
Yeah.
grounding, like it seems simple, but I I see so often when people are not grounded and then they can be, knocked off their center quite easily. Once you're grounded and properly, protected,
Mhm.
and you start knowing yourself, that is when you can start honoring yourself. It is the place where you can start seeing where dots connect.
Yeah.
And I think the key thing that I've seen within myself and others is if you're a little bit confused about your life path and what you're meant to be doing,
Mhm.
more often than not, it's the thing that brings you joy and it's a thing that is easy to you.
Yeah.
And those are your gifts. It took me a long time to learn and understand that what comes easily to me is a gift,
Mhm.
and it's part of what I'm here to do, and their talents. And I also had to work through, well, if it's so easy for me, then why do I charge for it?
Yeah.
It's like, well, do you know
Definitely.
what, my landlord here where I live is not interested in doing swapsies. I give them a healing session and
Yeah.
they
You
let
can
me
live here
rent
for
here.
free, rent free for the month. Yeah.
Yeah, not interested in that.
No.
I know the water company is not interested in swapsies either. And so, yeah, I have to earn a living with that.
It's
But
a
it,
service at the end of the day. You don't go to the hairdressers and then they cut your hair or style your hair and you walk and say thanks and walk out the door.
yeah, cheers. Thanks for
Service.
that. So, really having to get my mind around the fact
Mhm.
that if it does come easy to me, and it is a gift, that is part of me shining my light. It's part of my soul mission here, and
Mm.
it's part of what I'm here to do. I mean, I really, it fills my cup when I've turned my living room. I've got a fold out table under the couch, and that's then my makeshift art studio.
Oh, cool.
And like I do art journaling for myself, which has been incredible for processing some stuff.
Mm.
And it's
Mhm.
creative and it's where I test out some ideas and stuff before I go on computer and things like that.
Mhm.
And it truly brings me joy. And so I can see now, at this point in my journey, that it's like, oh, it totally makes sense that I'm meant to be playing around in my living room with paint
That's
and
great. That's
and
cool. The
whatever
inner child
else.
coming out there as well, which is fun. That's good.
Yes, I encourage everyone, to look at their lives, what brings joy, what makes you smile, and what lights you up. I think that's the main thing, is what
Mhm.
lights you up, because you don't really want to be doing a job that drains your energy and dims your light.
Yeah.
Our true soul paths are to be shining our light. And I mean, sure, at the end of a retreat, I'm tired. I need to
Mm.
take time off for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't exit the retreat thinking, well, I'm never doing that again. It's just so draining. I actually exit the retreat with a smile on my face and like, sure, I want to go lie on the couch, but it's like, ah, that was so nice.
That's beautiful. I think it's the perfect way to end our conversation today. There's so many golden nuggets there and so much which I'm sure many individuals can relate to. So thank you so much for your time today, Liz. Thank you for your energy, your wisdom, being so honest about everything which has been going on in your world on your own journey. And Yeah, thank you so much for being here, for having a couple with us today, and for our viewers today. Thank you so much for taking the time, a little bit of time to check out and to hang out with us. And just from my heart, and obviously from Liz as well, we're wishing you the most beautiful day ahead, whether it's daytime, evening. Have a lovely weekend if you're watching this before the weekend, and take good care of yourself. And we'll catch you on another cuppa soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.